For the May 9th Fountain City Council meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and could I please, I noticed there's some people from American Legion in the house. They'd like to come down and lead the flag salute, please. And VFW, whichever one of you wants to come down and lead the flag salute, come on down. Come down, do it together.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, roll, please.
Mayor Thompson,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Estes,
Here.
Councilmember Hinton,
Here.
Councilmember Corey.
Here.
We do have Councilmember Rick online, I believe, if you could give me just a moment, Mayor Thompson. Mr. Lavelle, do you have Councilmember Rick online?
We do, yes.
Councilmember Rick?
Councilmember Rick, if you could say aye, here, present, any of the above?
I think he's, his mic is muted at this point.
Okay, we'll
Madam
go to
Clerk?
Councilmember Applegate,
Here.
Councilmember Duncan. And Mayor, we do have to hear verbal confirmation from Councilmember Rick that he is present for this meeting.
Okay, Councilmember Rick, I want to make sure that you heard what Clerk Huffman said. We do need verbal confirmation that you are on the call, so if you could try unmuting yourself, please. Madam Clerk, what would your preference be?
Councilmember Rick just texted and said I'm muted. It's not going through. Mr. Lavelle, is there anything that we can do differently? Oh. Okay, we do have confirmation via text message that Councilmember Rick is here and he is able to hear the meeting, so I will count him as present.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think it's the first time we've ever used text confirmation for someone at a meeting. All right, we're moving along. What's that? New World, yes. Okay, we're on to item 4.1, presentations. We have a proclamation declaring that henceforth, the Friday prior to Memorial Day will be known as Fountain Poppy Day in order of our fallen. And I believe we have some people here from the American Legion that are bringing that proclamation forward.
Mayor and City Council, as a retired Army combat soldier, I've had friends that did not make it back from where our country asked us to go. The red poppy is a symbol of both remembrance for those that have made the ultimate sacrifice and a hope for a peaceful future. If you didn't know, poppies were a common sight on the Western Front during World War I. The poppies flourished in the churned up soil from skirmishes and exploding ordnance. That is where the poppy gained its origin.
Each year, the American Legion family raises about $4 million by distributing poppies. 100% of these funds are used to help veterans. These funds cannot be used for any other cause. Our hope is that through this proclamation, the community will recognize the powerful symbol of remembrance that the poppy represents, and that when the community sees the American Legion family distributing poppies in the month of May, they understand why we are doing it and will proudly wear a poppy this Memorial Day weekend and every Memorial Day weekend going forward.
We thank the City of Fountain for this proclamation as a demonstration of support of the armed forces community. By the way, my name is John Langley, Commander, Newt Heisley, Post 38, American Legion, and my wife.
I'm Lisa Langley, and I'm the President-elect of American Legion, Unit 38 of Fountain.
Thank you.
Would you care to read your proclamation in, or would you like one of us to do it? You're more than welcome to do it.
Sure. Okay. Expressing support for the designation of the Friday prior to Memorial Day as Fountain Poppy Day in honor of our fallen. American Legion Post 38, Commander John Langley, and American Legion Unit 38 President-elect Lisa Langley submitted the following proclamation. expressing support for the designation of the Friday prior to Memorial Day as Fountain Poppy Day in Fountain, Colorado, and recognizing the importance of honoring those that have worn our nation's uniform. And whereas poppies are worn and displayed as a symbolic tribute to our fallen and the future of living veterans and service members, and whereas at the end of World War I, the American Legion adopted the poppy as a symbol of freedom and the blood sacrificed by troops in war times. And whereas the use of the poppy symbolically comes from the poem In Flanders Field, which movingly begins, "In Flanders fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row," referring to the poppies that sprang up in the churned earth of battlefields across Belgium and France, where soldiers died fighting. And whereas the American Legion family has long utilized the red poppy as its official flower, symbolizing the blood shed by those who have served in our U.S. military, and it's fitting that the American Legion and American Legion Auxiliary celebrate their 104th anniversaries. They expand the meaning and symbolism of the poppy, mirroring the manner in which the poppy is symbolically showcased in England and Canada in celebratory fashion on their Remembrance Day, also known as Armistice Day and Poppy Day. Whereas wearing a poppy will unite citizens from across the country who decide to show their patriotism, and whereas May 26, 2023 would be an appropriate day to designate as Fountain Poppy Day. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Office of Mayor Thompson, City of Fountain, Colorado, supports the designation of the Friday prior to Memorial Day as Fountain Poppy Day, and encourages all citizens, residents, and visitors in Fountain to join in observing this day to honor every service member who has died in the name of liberty, freedom, and democracy, while also showing their support for living veterans, service members, and their families.
All right, thank you. Done this 9th day of May 2023. Council, what would you like to do? Councilmember Duncan?
Motion to approve the proclamation.
Councilmember Hinton?
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the proclamation and declare that. Clerk Huffman?
Mayor Thompson, how do you vote?
Yes?
Mayor Pro Tem Estes, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Hinton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Corey, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Rick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Applegate, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
Thank you very much, and thank you for bringing that to our attention and coming today. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. That takes us on to presentation of Colorado Springs Creek Plan by Annie Burlman, Colorado Springs Utilities.
That is me. I have a PowerPoint presentation. Can I Wi-Fi in and use your screen?
We'll have to talk to our IT people and,
Unfortunately, in the current configuration for city council, we're not able to do that and still retain the connection with the rest of the system,
Okay.
with the streaming.
Could I email it to you real quick so you could share a screen, or?
It's going to take a few minutes to set that up.
Do you guys have?
I'll tell you what, why don't we go ahead with the next thing on our agenda while you and IT kind of figure out what you're going to do there. Does that work?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
All right. Okay. Manager trainer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate this opportunity. This is going to take a few minutes. I'm going to ask our Public Safety Director, Chief Heber, to come up. He has a few comments he wanted to share with the council, and following him, I will jump up as well and say a few words.
Okay, thank you. It's good to be here tonight. Todd has graciously donated his 15 minutes tonight to me, so we'll still get out of here at the same time. 14 left, clock started. In preparation for this speech tonight and some announcements, I had time to reflect this afternoon about my time here in the city of Fountain. And You know, I really thank God for his wisdom and his path to bring me for the city of Fountain, to work with 2 wonderful mayors, multiple great city councils, city councilors, to meet and work with a great staff and to meet lifelong friends. Todd, thank you for bringing me here and seeing something that recruited me. You know, in 2015 when I got here, I didn't have any gray hair. That's all the cops, all this gray hair. There's some on the beard right there. I got it named. And Scott said, hey, you're going to grow your hair out, right? So I grew out a little bit, and I got a little grayer. In my life, I've always really tried to be a protector and a defender of justice, and a voice for those people that don't have a voice, and a protector of the weak versus the strong. It was very passionate for me to serve our armed forces and defend our nation, and I've been very proud to serve and protect, along with my colleagues here, me as a representative of the city of Fountain and our 31,000 citizens. I believe that deeply in my heart. It's always been a part of my DNA, and it's been 29 years of public service, which made this decision harder, but ultimately the right decision for me and my family, to focus on my family. My beautiful wife and daughter are somewhere there. Hi, Reagan. And I let Scott know after much deliberation of me trying to stay on as a public safety director, and there was a large part of me that wanted to do that. But ultimately, we made a family decision to retire effective 30 June 2023. It's been my distinct honor to serve as your police chief and public safety director for the last 8.5 years. I had 2 main goals when I came here in 2015, just as Todd did, and handed it to me to leave the department a little better than I found it. I think we accomplished those 2 goals. The second one, and I'll be swearing Hulk in as a police chief. Where'd Hulk go? Is to find my replacement, my fur-legged buddy, train him up, teach him how to sit and fetch and do all kinds of great things. But truly, I believed it was my job to find my replacement while I was here. Fred, you know, as an Army guy, we mentor, we train, because tomorrow's not promised. People don't survive in combat. The next man's got to be ready to step up, or woman. And we've accomplished that goal. I'd like to list a couple of accomplishments, but they wouldn't be possible without a few people I'd like to recognize. Mayors Ortega and Thompson, thank you for your leadership. I know it's lonely at the top sometimes, and you both did a great job. All of our city councils, Mr. Trainer, you know, I'll just tell one brief story about Scott. And some people might not know this, but I think it goes to his character and his compassion, his care for his people. I can't tell you how many times in my 8 years, either a firefighter or a police officer walked in my office and was holding a personalized note from Scott that he had written them for their birthdays, for a significant event that they went through, for something that they had supported above and beyond. Hodgick, I remember, was one of the last ones. Had a note from Scott that came in. And Scott, I thank you for that. And the employees thank you, and I want to recognize you for that and say thank you. It meant a lot to them, and it meant a lot to me. Todd, of course, for recruiting me and your mentorship and your friendship and your support during the good times and the hard times. I appreciate it. Superintendent Dr. Keith Owen, Dr. Romero, our city coworkers, PPI owners and staff, and most importantly, representing behind me, the almost 110 civilian and sworn members of the Fountain Fire, EMS, and Public Service and Police Department. Our police and our fire team and civilian support staff have served our citizens with great compassion, dedication, care, and provided 24/7, 365-day year-round service for 8.5 years, and never missed a beat through COVID, crises, power outage, snowstorms, and always answered the call. Each one of you is a true dedicated professional. I'm proud to know and serve with each one of you, and you're the very best part that serves within the city, and I salute you. Thank you. When we first got here, we executed a merger of the El Paso County dispatches with our dispatch. It just made simply, although we had some kinks and it wasn't always popular, it made our first responders, El Paso County, Fountain Police, safer, and got quicker services to our citizens across the Fountain Valley. Created a world-class CommStat program. I'll just give all the credit to Ms. Wanda Cabello for her direct leadership and oversight of that role. Vastly improved coordination and communication with Fort Carson Emergency Services that helped reduce soldier suicides. We have real-world cases that working together saved soldiers' lives and increased our response capability. Expanded our community outreach. If there was a business, a church, we visited. If there was an event in Fountain, we attended throughout, and it's always been our honor and my privilege to be there and represent the city. Enhanced our recruiting, netting 25 public safety sworn and non-sworn workers to the city over the last 8.5 years, 8 of which were school resource officers, and I'll talk about that next. Our school resource program that we've all supported in close coordination with District 8 is world-class. It's been recognized at a national level. We will be expanding that onto Fort Carson next year, and the following years in 100 will take over those schools, and there'll be a Fountain Cop in every school in D8 and Fort Carson. That's been our commitment, and they've been great partners. We also have a great SRO leadership team that has helped make all that possible. Upgraded our safety equipment, both police and fire. Thank you for your support on that. You know, we're not a rich community, but I know your support was always to make sure that life, health, safety, they had the right equipment and vehicles to do their jobs and be safe, and I thank you for that. That support directly came from you. Upgraded Fire Station 2 with a full-time ambulance. That was across the tracks, reduced our response time, and we will build our 4th fire station, public safety complex on the east side of the city in 2024. Hired and funded, created the city's first 2 beacon teams. Just great support from the beacon teams, and everyone's been a part of that. Thank you for supporting that idea. It's helped our citizens in crisis. 99% of those calls, no one goes to jail, and we give people ongoing help in our community. The first LE therapy dog, Hulk, Shayna. Shayna had a 14-hour PowerPoint brief she wanted to hit me with, and I told her after slide 1, she had me at hello, and let's do a therapy dog. It's been great. Hulk has made a tremendous difference in our community. Our focus on first responder and family mental health. Mama J, where's Mama J? Mama J is over here. She's one of our PD moms. She's really taking the lead on helping our families. Noah and Shayna established our PD peer support program this year, and the fire department established it 3 years. In the first year, they had over 100 contacts. So we're very proud of those programs. Finally, I'll just say our first responder, our Fountain Explorer program. You know, we started that program with like 3 little kids in it, you know, like 7 years ago. And today that group has over 30 people, and 2 of which are now serving as full-time police officers in our city. The passage of 2B last year by our citizens. I just want to say thank you to everybody. It created a funding stream that will help protect our community for decades and decades to come. In that, I want to personally thank Fran, Penny, Al Linder, Jennifer Herzberg, the Carlins, the DICE team, Bob and Guy from PPIR, Mayor Thompson, and the City Council as you stood out there and held some signs and helped us get that passed. Thank you. I just wanted to recognize and give a shout out to all the regional law enforcement partners and fire partners. It is simply the best I've ever seen in any team anywhere in the world. Every time they have called and asked for help or called us, we have always went, and they've always come to protect our citizens and our cops. In conclusion, and I'll save some of these comments for here in a minute, the Fountain Public Safety Department will be left in good, capable, great hands. I wouldn't feel comfortable leaving if I didn't believe that to the depth of my core. We have great people here on both staffs. We have great officers. We have great firefighters. And we're in good hands because I'll still be a member of this community. I want to recognize Chief Devin Graham. You know, after serving in Chief of Roswell for 8 years, I think God truly brought him here and his family to this community. In my career of 29 years, he's a unique leader. He's faith-based, he's character-based, he's intelligent, he's calm under pressure, and he's going to do great things, and I'm proud to call him my friend. Don't cry. Lastly, and it is lastly, I just want to thank my wife, Mandy, and the good Lord for bringing me to Fountain to finally find her. She and my daughters, Allie and Reagan, have been my backbone and support structure through the good and the bad times for all this time. Her support over the long hours, critical incident responses at nights, calls after hours, and her own unique love for our officers and firefighters is very profound and makes me very proud. Mandy has spent so much of her own personal time visiting her school resource officers, our police station, fire station, bringing personalized small gifts to officers. Her and Reagan would write down 61, 100 personalized small gifts. Attending almost all our city events, being an ambassador to our city because of her own love for our city and our first responders. Mandy, we are in your debt. I love you, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter of our lives together. Please join me in a round of applause for Miss Mandy. This is the thing we do. So without further ado, Police Chief Heber signing off the net. I'll be staying on as the Public Safety Director just to make sure we do the best absolute transition and battle handover in the history. And it's been my pleasure to serve you all. Thank you for your support.
Don't think you're getting out of here that easy. I remember the first day Todd brought you over and introduced you to me. We'd had a little incident in our business the day before, and I think I was still shaken when I leaned on Todd, and then he drops the bomb of bringing somebody new on. I think I had some pretty tough questions for you. You had good answers for all of them, and I think history's proven that was beyond a good decision. It was a fantastic decision to bring you on. And really, really, between the two of you, Todd and you really changed the look of policing in this city. And our citizens have been 1,000% better for it. So thank you very much. Totally understand. Grieve it, but support it, right? And I'm sure there's some other council members that would want to say something. And this isn't farewell. You're probably going to have one of the longest farewell parties in the city of Fountain, but you know. Anyways, Councilmember Hinton.
Sure, I'll be brief. Chief, I appreciate your service. I appreciate all you've done for the city of Fountain. And I just care about the officer, the men and women that serve the city. I understand it's difficult. It's a difficult job. But you are an example of the leader that you've had over this past 8-10 years as Chief Herbert, and I appreciate all that he does. And the last thing I'd like to do for you, sir, is to salute you for your service.
Thank you, Councilmember Applegate.
Yeah, Chief, I just want to say that most everything that's here, the culture of the police department and everything here is from you. And you brought a culture here, well, Todd started it, but you brought a culture here that's the top in probably the nation. Everybody I've talked to, they praise this town for their police. And thank you for everything you've done.
Councilmember Estes.
Thank you, Chief, for your time here, for your leadership, and thank you, Mandy, for your sharing him with us. Enjoy him, enjoy your lives, and know that you've handed it off correctly.
Councilmember Corey.
I was going to say, I'm going to deny that request, for you to leave. You can't. No, but seriously, thanks, Chief. Thanks for putting in all those years of service. And you have some great men and women around you, really, truly do. And, you're a class act, and you're, the people that go out and patrol every day, and they keep us safe. They really are class acts, We don't have the problems other departments have. You built a great foundation, so it's awesome. Thank you for doing what you did.
Councilmember Duncan.
I don't know what to say. They say all good things come to an end, right? So, here we are. And I hate to cry, but I feel like I've been knowing you all my life. You're just that kind of person. You have the great personality. There is nowhere I've ever been, whether I go to church, whether I'm in the park, wherever, everybody knows Chief Heber. And it's like, I don't know, should we change the name of Fountain to Chief Heber? I don't know, So, it's just been really an awesome experience. seeing your leadership here. We have our awesome police that have been here up under your leadership, and nothing but praises. This is a different Fountain than what you hear, right? Because we've shared stories. So, you know, and we have a great team, and it's because of your leadership, and I appreciate that. You know, I've never seen someone of your stature that can walk in a room in a police out in uniform and no one is afraid, right? And that says a lot. We've shared stories, and I've told you about different meetings where people were just afraid just because of the uniform, right? And I've never had anyone to tell me that they were afraid of you. And I just think that you're going to be a hard act to follow. We're going to miss you, right? But I think you made the good decision, the best decision, because she's full speed ahead, right? And you're going to need some time to run behind her and enjoy her and watch her grow up, because you have kids and you know they grow up fast. So I just want to say thank you for everything. Love you to life and enjoy everything.
All right, you almost got me going, but I held it together.
Madam Mayor, if I could just recognize briefly one other person, and she's standing over the corner, and she's going to hate that I recognize her, but in my thing I'll release tomorrow, I just thanked Lisa for being the leader of the Fountain Special Forces, another great team mom. She's provided and grown so much as a PIO, and we relied on her in recent events when the department and the community needed her the most. And she did not hesitate, and she did not blink, and she's a true professional. So thank you, Lisa.
Do we have Councilmember Rick on texting anything in or wanting?
Yes, Madam Mayor, he does want to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. I do want to say thank you to my friend, Chris Heber. Sorry I couldn't be there for you today. But like you take care of your kids, I take care of my grandkids. And I'm up here in North Dakota with them for some special time. I hope you enjoy your time off. If you ever need to talk to somebody about what it's like to be retired, don't hesitate to get a hold of me. And thank you for your service. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. We're going to turn it over to the City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chris allowed me earlier today to see the comments that he was preparing. And I knew once I saw those that it really represents the legacy he's leaving here. And there's no way I could follow that. So I'm not going to bore you, other than I do want to say that I love this guy. I've loved, kind of a wuss when I stand up and these emotions I'm feeling it. But I love this man. I love what he's done here. I came into this organization going on 16 years ago, and I never would have thought that I would be standing right here today after the two most recent police chiefs that we've had. Todd did a great job bringing Chris here for 8.5 years, has just done a tremendous job. And I think that's reflected, the biggest legacy he leaves here are in the men and women of the police and fire departments and the quality people, which we have a fraction here. That I can't tell you how proud I am to be associated with people like that, the quality people we have, and it's going to be tough. And I think of Chris, and I think of two things, 2 words, love bank. And when he first said that 8.5 years ago when I met him, I thought, who is this weirdo? And this guy can't be a cop talking about love. That's not a word that they talk about, at least in my head. I didn't think that. But when he explained what that meant, and then when he started to live it, and when I started hearing those comments from officers, and really not the comments as much as seeing the actions and what that actually meant, I thought, wow, those 2 words sound kind of like goofy words, but it is the secret sauce that really makes a police department, fire department, really any department connect with the community and connect with each other. And I've seen it, and it's been a wonderful thing. And with that, what I'd tell you is that when Chris sat down to talk to me to give me an idea of where his direction was headed, I mean, at first, literally my heart stopped. I was on the road driving to a conference, and Todd called me. Yeah, thanks. And I mean, I had to pull over on the side of the road. It just floored me. But I understood. When he explained, I understood. It made sense, and I was happy for him. Sad for us, but happy for him. But what he's done, besides the legacy he's created here, he also created a legacy of leaders, and so he created a group of folks on the bench who are lined up to take various leadership positions. And so I'm fortunate to be able to stand here today knowing the direction that Chris was headed, and we went and we moved forward with the process to hire a police chief, someone to fill his shoes. Maybe not to fill his shoes, but to stand in their own shoes and do their own thing and take what Todd created, Chris built on, and build on it even more and do better things. And so I'm really excited with what Chris has done in the leadership realm over there at the police department. And I'm really excited to stand here and know that when I use those two words, love bank, the gentleman I'm going to introduce to the council right now, or really introduce to the community as the person I want to promote to the police chief, he lives those two words as well. Right? He lives those two words. He's been part of that love bank for the last 8.5 years. And I can see him carrying all the great legacy things forward, as well as adding too, and doing a bunch of other great things that none of us are even thinking about yet. So with that, I would like to let the council know and let the community know that the council has had a time. Well, first of all, myself, Chief Heber, and Todd had the opportunity to sit down for 2.5 hours. They went a lot longer than that. 2.5 hours. Yeah, a lot longer than we thought. And ask some great questions and have a great conversation. And what I learned was a lot of times when we're going through this process, we get to know someone on a real two-dimensional level because we work with them, right? Then we go home and we do our own family things. But got an opportunity to learn a lot about Mark Cristiani and who he is and what his background is, and not just professionally, but also personally. We had some great questions about leadership and about family and about culture and about all these things about our community that are really important to me as a city manager. And I came out of that just going, wow, this dude, I kind of wish I'd had this conversation with Mark a couple years ago. It would have been great to know some of this stuff about the quality person he is. I already knew he was a quality person, but to sort of get that three-dimensional look. And then I looked at Todd, and Todd went, wow. And Todd never says wow, right? He's like, this guy's going to be awesome. And of course, Chris really supports him. So the council had an opportunity to talk with Mark and get a few questions asked and answered and hear a little bit about Mark. And so with the advice and consent of council, which is what our charter requires, my plan will be to promote Mark into the police chief position. And what I would like to do, again, with the consent of council, is have him sworn in tonight as our next police chief, if that would be okay.
Absolutely. Mr. Cristiani, you sure that's what you want to do?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Y'all heard it in a public meeting. Y'all heard it, right? Do you need us to each verbalize that for you for the
I think
record?
if I'm seeing nods across the table, and Councilmember Rick also had indicated before, I don't know, can you ask him just so he can verbalize that? But he'd given me a heads up earlier as well.
Councilmember.
I approve.
Thank you, Gordon. Appreciate that. With that, Sylvia, are you ready? Wow, I know. That's my bad. Mark, come on up.
Yes, I am.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Mark Cristiani,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of the state of Colorado,
and of the state of Colorado,
the Fountain City Charter,
the Fountain City Charter,
and City of Fountain ordinances and
the
codes.
City of Fountain ordinances and codes.
I will faithfully perform the duties
I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of police chief
of the office of police chief
in Fountain, Colorado,
in Fountain, Colorado,
upon which I'm about to enter,
upon which I am about to enter,
to the best of my skill and ability.
to the best of my skill and ability.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Yep, he's gonna.
So these stars, they're a little dusted up. They're worn, but they were given to me by Chief Evans. And now I present them to Chief Christiani, which has been my pleasure to call you Chief all day. You know, what you don't know about Mark is he's a 30-year law enforcement veteran. He served as a sheriff's office deputy, a patrol deputy, and retired as senior detective in homicide and major crimes out of Scottsdale, Arizona. If you ask Mark why he stayed there, it's because he wanted to be the best at his craft. And when he arrived here about the same time I did in 2018, Mark was humble. He worked midnight patrols and drove around our community and grew up in the ranks in our department. Has been a member of this staff since 2018. And it was my pleasure to promote him, although I wasn't there to commander last year, because I knew Mark was going to be the right guy for the right time, and the department needed a new chief to step in. Mark has built a great relationship with the officers. Mark understands leadership. You understand our culture. Mark has great relationships that will continue to help this department and our city across the region. He has my utmost faith and confidence, just as Todd did, just as I did, to continue to lead the department to newer heights and meet the challenges that will come. I will continue to pray for you. I'm proud of you, and it's really good to give you those stars tonight. Congratulations. This is an awkward part. Come sit down. Come sit down. Speech first.
A little bit, yes.
Congratulations, Chief Christiani.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be very brief because, quite honestly, I'm not really sure what to say here at this point. I want to first and foremost thank my family. My wife's here with me today, Lori. My daughter, Emily. My son's working up at Culver's right now, so he couldn't be here tonight. He's dedicated to his work. And of course, my brother, who's a detective right now with our department, and his wife, Dana, along with all of the officers that are here, and I know they're not here just for me. They're here for Chief as well. But the support you see behind me is astronomical, and I can't do it without any of them. As I spoke about earlier, this isn't about me, the police chief. This is about we as a department, and we're going to move forward. We've had a difficult year with the loss of one of our own. That is not something we are ever going to forget, and that is something that we are still working through. These are big shoes to fill, no doubt. I'm not Chris Hebber, never would profess to be. He's done and some amazing things, served in our armed forces, deployed several times. I can't fill those shoes. I have my own way that I'm going to be a police chief in this town, in this city. I want the citizens to know that this will be a seamless transition. There will be no sweeping changes. So we have a great department as it stands now. We're going to get better. We're going to set new goals, and we're going to continue to move forward with the growth of this city and the anticipated people that will be moving into Fountain. I will also be one of those people moving into Fountain. I'm currently right on the border, but I am dedicated to this job and why I want to do it. And I'm going to pack up my stuff, and we're going to pack up, and we're going to move across the street, and we're going to move into the city limits of Fountain.
That's commitment, baby.
Yes, sir. You know, but first and foremost, I want to thank all of you for giving me the time earlier today, for your unwavering support of the police department. The city council we have here is unmatched in this country. I'm not well versed in that, but I know, I pay attention and I watch how things operate in this country, and we do things differently here. That is going to be how we're going to continue to do it. The men and women officers that are behind me, this is only a fraction of the department here. Everybody's out working and spending time with their families. You have a great police force. It's going to get stronger. We're going to add more officers here in the next year, year and a half. And I just want to let the citizens know that their quality of life that they currently know it today will remain and hopefully get better. Growth is coming. We're prepared for it. We're ready for it. And I look forward to being the police chief. It is a true honor. I never thought I'd be standing here before anybody, let alone in Fountain, Colorado. But here we are, so I'm ready to go to work. Let's do this, and thank you very much for your time.
I'd like to let everybody know, the next council meeting, May 23rd at 5 PM, we're going to have a welcome for Chief Cristiani at 5 o'clock. So bring your questions, bring some hard ones, bring some easy ones, and just welcome him from 5 to 6 right before our next council meeting. And we'll do that right out there in the area out there. And so thank you very much. And again, congratulations and thank you also. Appreciate your time you're going to be sharing your hubby with us. So thank you very much. And welcome to the family too. So I have one last question though. What are we supposed to call Mr. Heber now?
Mr. Heber's fine.
Mr. Heber, okay.
Chris, KU.
Okay. All righty. Okay. With
Call
that.
him Mandy's husband.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you so much for everybody tonight, and thank you for your time and everything. So we need to move the meeting on, and so we're going to move back to the presentation of the Colorado Springs Creek Plan by Annie Burlman. Are we ready now, IT?
We are, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight, and appreciate it.
I have some handouts here.
If you'll give him the city clerk, please.
For starters, thank you all for having me. My name is Annie Burleman. I am the Fountain Creek Watershed Project Manager for Colorado Springs Utilities. You may wonder why somebody with Colorado Springs Utilities will be presenting this. This is a new opportunity that came up recently. Most of these slides you're going to see are part of a Fountain Creek Vision Implementation Plan, but we're going to get into the project part. And the project part of this plan actually has an agreement between a nonprofit organization, Pikes Peak Waterways, City of Colorado Springs Stormwater Enterprise, and Colorado Springs Utilities. As part of this agreement that we have, each organization gets a representative PM, and I am Colorado Springs Utilities PM. The Pikes Peak Waterways PM is here with me tonight. His name is Chris Lieber, and he is with NES, and he will also be here to field any questions you may have. So without more ado, next slide, please. When this first began as a vision implementation plan, these are the folks that started to put it together. And a lot of these folks were actually from the South Platte River Basin. And we looked at what the South Platte River Basin was doing and go, hey, why can't we do something here in Monument Creek and Fountain Creek? And these are the folks that originally kicked off the vision implementation plan, which you'll be seeing the first part of this presentation. Next slide, please. The goal of this Colorado Springs Creek Plan is to restore a natural function to the creek, create a signature place for outdoor water and play in our community. It's been unfortunate that recently we've been turning our backs to the creeks, and instead of turning our backs to the creeks, maybe we should face them and make them a part of an amenity. And as part of that amenity, it can be a catalyst for economic vitality. Bring people into the creek, bring people into downtown areas, and let them enjoy nature that way. And this also energizes our community and gives a sense of placemaking and authenticity. Next slide, please. This is the scope of the project that's been looking at. There have been 5 projects identified up near the Popsicle Bridge all the way down to Nevada Street. And there's 5 different projects all along this valley. But this is exactly where downtown Colorado Springs is. And the interstate is right there, along with Monument Creek, sandwiched right in between them. Next slide, please. When the VIP group first got together, the first thing they wanted to look at is what has been done already. And it turns out there has been tons of plans that have been done, starting back from 2005, 2002, and even before then. So they looked at all the planning that had been done already and wanted to bring that together and actually make it a plan that's implementable and actionable, instead of just being another plan that sits on a shelf for somebody to pick up and do someday. Next slide, please. So the history of Monument Creek is varied, like it is with Fountain Creek. You can see how the channel has moved over time, beginning in 1895 and then down to 2021. And it used to move around a whole lot more and have a lot of sinuosity. Well, over time, it's been incised, straightened, and moving water through as quickly as possible. And this has led to some problems environmentally, ecologically, as well as social interaction with the creek, as it's been straightened and confined in its boundaries. So next slide, please. So currently, these are current conditions on Fountain Creek. You can see the pictures on the left. And what happened is there's some trail system, and the creek is confined by either walls, levees, or just bedrock. And the creek kind of snakes around in the bottom and kind of makes its way, and we have some trails. But it doesn't promote people in the creek. It's not good for supporting wildlife. It also is detrimental to water quality as well. So what this plan is looking to do is actually implement a better plan for both humans with the creek and as well as the environment as well. Next slide, please. So this is an example of what a prototype could look like. You see there's more sinuosity with the creek, which slows water down, which helps with sedimentation, erosion, and deposition, and improves other water quality parameters. It also connects terraces, and you see those functioning floodplain and infiltration terraces. That's where the creek, when the water rises up, it can access the floodplain, and then when the flood is over, it can come back into its channel. It's much less detrimental to the ecosystem that way. And then also, again, bike trails, hiking trails, bird watching, things like that. It brings all those amenities down. Next slide, please. And this is what an even further public edge kind of a project could look like, where you still have sinuosity, you still have terraces and green spaces that the water can access and help with water quality. But then you also add a lot of amenities that people and families and children can come down and interact with the creek. So next slide, please. And you see these are several alternatives here. There's bridges, there's adjacent neighborhoods. We're also looking at doing some form of like splash beaches and sandy areas and things like that, as well as float tubes and other recreation, including fishing. Next slide, please. So this is a vision of what it could look like, completely finished. And again, you see a nice healthy ecosystem there. You have kids playing in the water, but there's plenty of green space. There's terraces for flooding. There's appropriate vegetation to improve water quality and things like that. So next slide, please. I'm going to go through the 5 projects relatively quickly because you have pictures all there. So I'm just going to walk you through them. This is the Monument Valley Park and Centennial neighborhood, also at Fontanero Street. And this is an area that is very confined and very channelized. And it also has fleet management. The buildings you see on the right are actually City of Colorado Springs and Colorado Springs Utilities fleet management. And maybe that's not the best place to put a fleet management yard, right beside your creek. And this also connects Monument Valley Park and the Centennial neighborhoods and brings those neighborhoods down into the creek. Next slide, please. This one's really cool. This is College Landing at Uinta. CC does not have a lot of interaction with the creek, and this would open it up and allow CC students, faculty, and staff to come and interact with the creek. It also keeps a lot of the history with the old Van Briggle building right there in the bottom of that. Next slide, please. This is America the Beautiful Park. I'm going to touch on this one more detail because it is our first project. But as you can see, this one is the confluence of where Upper Fountain Creek meets Monument Creek. So this is really the heart of the creek system right here. And it's been improved, but it's still in pretty rusty condition. And ecologically and geomorphology and flow-wise, there's a lot of room for improvement here. Next slide, please. The next parcel down is just below that. This is Drake Waterfront Reimagined. You all know Colorado Springs Utilities has decommissioned Drake Power Plant, and we are currently tearing it down as we speak. And it will still be Colorado Springs Utilities land. We will still have infrastructure there. It's actually going to house a lot of battery units. But the rest of the waterfront needs a lot of rehabilitation, and then it can completely be reimagined if we don't have 3 smokestacks, 3 evaporation towers lined up there. Next slide, please. This is the last of the projects. This one is Gateway Park South, and this is actually Dorchester Park area. And again, this is more recreation, and bringing people down, interacting with the creek, opening up some of those floodplains and those terraces, and much improved sinuosity. This is where, after Monument Creek comes whipping around the corner at I-25, a lot of that water velocity has caused a lot of sedimentation and erosion. So from Drake Waterfront down to here, that's a big opportunity to help support the creek in that way. Next slide, please. This is the first project that the Oversight Committee had picked to begin with this project. The graphic you see in the center is currently America the Beautiful Park, and each of those numbers you see corresponds to what it is on the left. Our project goal, we are still in scoping at this point and defining the project, which is why I'm here tonight. I would love to hear feedback on this project, what you like, what you don't like, and that's why there's a handout. If you see the goals and objectives on the right-hand side of the screen or your paper, there's 5 different objective boxes there. Every one of those objective bullet points we want to have in our project. So if it doesn't get met in our project, if we can't check it, it's not going to happen. So we have all of our bullet points, and these are all of our goals that we hope to accomplish with the America the Beautiful project. And I know it's down at the bottom, but it's actually very important. We really want to focus on maintenance and management of the park. If we do a big project and then just turn around and walk away from it, it's not going to stay a big, beautiful project. So maintenance and management is, though it's at the bottom, is a really big topic for this. So I would like to take a pause. Does anybody have any questions on this part so far? I'm trying to be respectful of your time and not talk too much.
No, you're fine. Please continue.
Okay. Yeah, so the primary part with the goals and objectives area, number 1 is restoring the natural system of the creek. If the creek is not ecologically sound and we don't have good water quality, we can't get people to interact and come down to the creek, which is the second part, which is part of the economic catalyst. We would like people to come downtown, interact with the creek, bring their children, have dinner, and things like that. And Monument Creek actually could be a bigger recreation destination. We actually have a quite robust fishery that could be supported in this area, sport fish like brown trout, as well as our native fish as well. And we would like to create more recreation opportunities in the middle of town so people don't always have to get in their car and travel 20 miles, up U Pass or something else to get to a reservoir or throw a tube in the water or something like that. As far as placemaking goes, this is the front porch of Colorado Springs. This is where, when people come in from U Pass, the south, or even from the north, this is what you're going to see when you enter Colorado Springs. And it should be a beautiful front porch and a functional front porch as well. So that is what you're looking at for this project. Any questions so far?
I don't know exactly how to put this, but this is an area that is near where you have a lot of our homeless population.
Yes.
So how are you able to keep that clean?
That's probably one of the number 1 challenges. Water quality and homeless issue is probably the biggest challenge facing us. We are hoping to construct this in a way using vegetation management that allows people to interact with the water, but doesn't allow for camping and nice shady spots where people can set up camp for very permanent structures, which is what happens in lower parts of the watershed. So, and also there is a camping ban in Colorado Springs. You can't camp within 100 feet of the creek, and we'll hopefully help enforce that as well. And so that is a really big challenge of getting people down to the creek, letting them know they're safe. And as part of our maintenance and management, security and safety is pretty high on the list. So yeah, that's 1 and 2 on our big concern list. If you have any ideas, I would love to hear them. It's challenging.
Councilmember Estes?
Can you address how you're doing these projects in Colorado Springs will help us at this end of Fountain Creek? Because I think that's what we want to hear.
Definitely.
Is how this improves our lives here, because that's Colorado Springs, this is Fountain. How will these projects affect us?
Number 1 is going to be water. You play most effects in water quality. So there are places where Fountain Creek or Monument Creek is incised, and it's hitting Pierre Shale. Pierre Shale leaches selenium into the water. As you go further down the creek, not Fountain Creek, but time you get to the Arkansas, there's a selenium impairment. Also sedimentation and erosion, as well as when we have catastrophic floods, huge depositions coming down the creek. We're trying to manage the sediment supply. Monument Creek and Fountain Creek, their job is to move sediment, but it should move it at a nice constant rate. It shouldn't be having huge scour events and then huge piles of deposition. So, and when you remove sedimentation and minimize that, it also improves water quality, turbidity, and mostly metals and things like that. So, and then as far as This also is a stronghold for the fathead chub as a native fish, and it has a stronghold here in Fountain Creek. And there's some blocks where this fish cannot make it all the way up the creek, particularly when you get into Colorado Springs. So improving that fishery up high. These little fish, they're very small, but they're very big, they're very strong swimmers, and they also travel, 10, 15, 20 miles is not too hard for these guys. So this would also improve native fisheries. So you guys would see, which is why we're here for you guys as stakeholders, water quality will be the primary factor.
I'm going to try to be as tactful as I can. I think we're all sitting up here a little overwhelmed. This is the first time we've heard of this project. And I think we all try to work regionally when it comes to the water quality. So I think it would have been nice to find out about this a little bit sooner.
Well, we're still at the very beginning.
I understand.
So.
We have a road that's washed out down here, and we lost an entire trailer park, which was a community here, displaced an entire.
Southmore Drive?
Yes, from the flooding coming down Fountain Creek. A lot of it due to Colorado Springs not doing maintenance. How is this project going to affect that flooding that comes down this far and all the debris and everything that comes with us? Because if you're not solving that issue, ultimately, this is going to wash out.
Yes.
And you're going to wash us out even worse with the debris coming down here. And I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, but we have had to spend thousands of dollars, and we have millions and millions of dollars we don't have to rebuild a road that is eroded away due to people upstream not doing what needs to be done. And sorry if you're kind of getting the message, but this is beautiful.
That's what I'm here
But you know what? We have in a plan, we have this identical photo for something we want to do down here. And we've had it on record for probably 3 to 5 years. We know we can't do it and can't even look at it because it'll be washed out. So how is this project? I think that's the tough question we need to know. How is this project? And why are you down here presenting it to us, trying to get buy-in from us for some reason? And I'm sorry those are tough questions, but that's what we sit up here and we're paid our little pittance to ask those tough questions, because Todd has to sit in the meetings and be nice, but I can say them.
Okay,
So I think, those are questions our citizens are going to want to know, because ultimately you're asking us to send our citizens up to your city to spend money in your city. We want our citizens to stay down here and spend money in our city. And I totally agree with Councilmember Duncan's question about what are you going to do with the homeless, because you're going to shove them down the creek is what's going to happen. And they're going to be down here. And that's just the reality. They're going to move, especially during the construction, right? And so I think we need some really good answers to those questions.
I will try to answer that in 3 parts, so bear with me. If I don't completely answer your question, please stop me. That is why this partnership is also, it's unique in that it has a private or nonprofit organization. It also has the City of Colorado Springs Stormwater, which, as you know, stormwater is the challenge when it comes to Monument Creek and Fountain Creek. It is a very flashy system. And it's not the base flows that are fine, it's the catastrophic, really high flows that are an issue. So partnering with City Stormwater, we are hoping to improve stormwater management at this project, but also the other ones, and then City Stormwater is also citywide as well. So improving and continuing to improve city stormwater, because we all know it's had its issues in the past, and there was a couple years we didn't even have city stormwater in Colorado Springs. So partnering with them is a way of making sure that though these pictures are beautiful, the nuts and bolts underneath need to be sound and secure, or it will just blow out. And we've all seen projects blow out on Fountain Creek. So from that perspective, these are the pretty pictures, but that's why the utilities and stormwater is on board to help shore up the baseline underneath all of this and make sure it's stable. As far as other partnerships and things like that, this Colorado Springs Stormwater Enterprise and Colorado Springs Utilities has been working through the district, the Fountain Creek Watershed District, on Southmore Drive. And so that has been, I sit on actually many of those committees, so that's why Tamara and Deidre have seen my face before is through the district. So from that perspective, for the Southmore Drive project, that's how we've been interacting, is through the Fountain Creek Watershed District, which is a much better partner for that kind of a project than the utilities, where we don't have utilities in that area. So these projects, we have utilities there and we have stormwater there. And then, well, your last question
Why
was
are you down here talking to us tonight? What do you need from us?
I would love to have your feedback. I would like for you, and it doesn't have to be tonight, but if somebody wants to email me and say, this is great, this isn't, or even how are you going to do this, I'm here to solicit feedback and look at this. This project is still being scoped out. We don't even have a plan and a full design yet. This is about as far as we've gotten on our scope. So this is early input, and we would like to get your input now while it's, in its baby steps and its infancy, and then also as it goes along and the project matures, gather feedback at that point as well. And again, feedback from your constituents. What do your constituents like, don't like about it? What are their concerns? Do they have a concern that has not been met on this yet? Could be. So we had a lot of people looking at this, but fresh eyes and a fresh perspective brings fresh things to the table.
Well, I think one of my concerns would be if you try to bump Southmore out on the Fountain Creek Watershed District, bump it down the list to promote this.
Oh, no. I do
Well,
want to
I'm
say.
just saying it's a concern, and I
It
think
is.
it's a fair concern because Fountain Creek Watershed District really hasn't put much money up into anywhere north of Pueblo.
And unfortunately, the Fountain Creek Watershed District has a lot of constraints on its monetary mitigation fund. Are you familiar with how that fund
Right, I am. I'm
operates?
just
Yeah.
saying,
So that one does have restraints. No, and these are two entirely different tracks. So the Fountain Creek Watershed has its priorities and its projects and what it's doing, and this is parallel but a separate track. And they do share a lot of the same goals and things like that, but it's a different organization.
Councilmember Hinton?
Yeah, I appreciate you coming down. These are pretty hard questions, right? I wasn't aware of this, so I didn't have enough time to kind of read about this. I am concerned about the homeless population, and it's not just concerned about them, but we need to develop a plan early in the stage with community partners, public safety, El Paso County, our police, because that increases their scope of responsibility now to kind of patrol those areas. We do have a pocket of homeless people that camp out in parks, understandably, but we really need to be working this as a total community and looking at this holistically, because they're just going to shift down, right? We need to have a plan.
I do agree with you, because that's what happened when Colorado Springs did the
Yeah.
camping ban.
Yeah.
On the main stem, it pushed them into tributaries, and that was really hard and detrimental on the tributaries as well.
Right.
So I agree. I would love to see a regional solution and at the county and, level working on this.
Yeah, for sure. So, as you're early on in this process, we really just need to make sure what that plan looks like, and then executing that to the best of our abilities with the homeless population and all those that are parties involved, including us, and how that affects the city of Fountain. These are nice pictures and they looks good, but it's really, it's just a picture on a piece of paper right now. The implementation is the most important part of that, and how does it affect our citizens here at the city of Fountain? That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, you're right. It is the implementation.
Councilmember Applegate?
Yeah, I was just curious. Apparently that's where it's going to end because you're not going anywhere close to Fountain Creek. But I understand that because Fountain Creek's a lot more volatile. It would take a lot different designing.
Yeah, there's one more project south of this one, Dorchester Park, Nevada and Tejon and all that. There's one project further down from here. But you're right, it does, and it's just after the confluence.
But that is just a tributary, and it does stop before you get to actual Fountain Creek, because Fountain Creek can get out of control. And I'm sure that's not going to affect us in the least down here. So
I do have some good news.
pretty pictures, though.
Yeah, I do have some interesting news. We are working with the USGS, City Stormwater Colorado Springs Utilities, on some scientific investigative reports. And one thing we're looking at is how flashy is Fountain Creek. Like how high is the highs and what do the lows look like? And post 2016, actually started in 2014, but is more evident in 2016, Fountain Creek and Monument Creek have become less flashy. The spikes aren't as large. They're instead of having a very pointy hydrograph like this, like a peak, it has become more rounded. So the implementation of city stormwater and other projects, the projects the district has done, it's all starting to slightly improve the watershed. And that SIR will be released hopefully later this winter, if not early next year. And we'll share that through the district and everybody else as well. So that's something interesting. There's been a shift in the watershed. Hopefully it's a long-term trend and not a short-term trend.
City Manager Trainer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One suggestion I was going to make, this is really new information for everyone here to digest. And so I think what may be helpful, probably helpful for us as well as maybe helpful for CSU, is if we put together sort of a unified response. And so one suggestion I would make is for the council to take a look at this, digest it, think about things, talk to folks, get whatever feedback you need to. And if you send it in to me, I'll coordinate a response. We're going to have staff follow up and get, we've got some questions ourselves that we want to talk about. So we're going to get those questions asked. We'll put it all together, have the council take a look before we send it out, and then we'll get it off. I think that would probably be helpful. Does that seem like that'd be helpful to the council?
Yeah, and people that watch the meeting or that are in the audience and want to have comments on this, do we want to open it up tonight, or do we want to just have them contact her directly?
Your preference. I'm here all night.
Yeah, I'm looking at my staff, yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, I would say both, really. I mean, if there's a way to contact CSU, great. But those are the kind of comments that might actually support and add on to some of the questions and comments we would have as well. And so I think there's always value to say, hey, these are the things we have concerns about, what we also have been hearing that's from our community. So I think if they send that into the city staff as well, that'd be really helpful. Or to their council representatives.
Okay, so can we, sorry, Todd, can we assign Todd as the collector of the emails?
The collector.
Okay.
He volunteered a minute ago.
T. Evans at fountaincolorado.org will be the collector of the comments. I do.
And that really goes for any complaints on anything that involved the city ever on anything.
Oh, yeah. Okay, got it. Yes.
I have Todd's email as well, so.
All right. Could you state your name again?
Yes, absolutely. I'm Chris Lieber with NES, and I'm part of the project team. And I just wanted to say a couple of things, and that is I really appreciate you identifying and talking about the issues. The plan that you see and the images that you see created were actually created through and funded by a nonprofit. And the idea really was to inspire change and to think about our creeks in a different way. Because if we don't change in some way, these same problems are going to just perpetuate. And I think it's meant to be inspirational. Absolutely, the project is at a point where getting more feedback on how this needs to happen, now's the critical time to do that. But just to answer kind of the question about concerns about homelessness, one of the real challenges that we all have, I think all of the communities, in just this particular corridor, there are so many different jurisdictions that either own land or have different regulations or policies, and what that mosaic does is it makes it very difficult to then manage or address some of the needs that are there. We're hoping this project can fix that. Or at least be a pilot program as an example. I think another great example would be today there are major sections of Monument and Fountain Creek where probably the one thing that the creek does well, or the way it's built, is just trying to move that stormwater as fast as possible out of Colorado Springs. We can do better than that, and this plan is about establishing and in some ways expanding upon floodplain, dealing with water quality, and we need to be able to demonstrate, I believe, a way to do this successfully and be able to show this to our community. And if it's successful, a lot of these ideas travel really well, I think, across the entire watershed. We looked at a whole series of different vignettes or prototypes that I think could work certainly down Fountain, but also on places like Sand Creek, on places like Spring Creek, on all of these different corridors. But we've got to start somewhere. And the hope is that this could be that inspiration or that spark plug that really does bring about change. So the whole region benefits, the whole watershed ultimately benefits. So thank you for your time tonight. We really appreciate it and look forward to your comments. So thank you.
Troy, do they need to reach out to Fountain Sanitation on this project? I think it would be something that they might want to be knowing what's going on right upstream.
Yeah, I don't know. What other organizations or agencies and entities are you dealing with kind of along with your presentation here?
Well, this is, again, the beginning of the stakeholder outreach portion, but the Fountain Creek Watershed District has already seen, a couple of the committees, not all of them, have already seen this presentation before. So Fountain Creek District, so Fountain Sanitation is familiar of it through there. I also will be giving this presentation tomorrow at PPACG, And so that's going to hit a lot of folks. And then also reaching out to other stakeholders such as the USGS, CPW, all of the city parks, streets, transportation, HOT team, all of the city of Colorado Springs folks have been reached out to as well. I also will be going down to Pueblo here in the next couple of weeks and letting them know as well, because again, they are downstream of us as well.
Yeah,
So
they might have some similar concerns, but
I'm sure they're going to be very much the same.
I think it's just, and I think maybe that's your comment, Mayor. I think it's always a good idea to remember that our utility does not service sanitation.
Yeah.
Like CSU does. So it's sometimes easy to forget, but it would be a decent idea to keep them in the loop, I imagine.
And that is definitely as part of this outreach. If there are folks that you think really need to know or would like a separate presentation, we would love to do that.
Second question for Troy. There's always so many water attorneys out there just looking to, file complaints. Is this, because we have to be very, very careful about any drop of water that we, remove from anywhere, right? How is this potentially impacting water rights downstream from this project?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I know you've got some great attorneys on your staff. I imagine that
You know Mark Shea is my supervisor, right?
I didn't.
Yeah,
know,
Mark
but,
Shea is my supervisor.
So
I consult with my water attorney daily.
And yeah, that's probably great advice. So yeah, I imagine that they're taking care of what they need to take care of, but
We're going to have eyes on it, Dan?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And the challenge with the Water Rights Administration is if you do a project, you can't impact downstream water users. And we have to watch wetlands, both from a permitting perspective, permitting and restoration, as well as if there isn't a need for augmentation. So there's 3 prongs to that are all challenging.
Okay. Are there any questions from anybody up here on the dais? All right, I do know we have at least one person in the audience would like to ask a question, please. Please come on down and state your name.
It's actually on. Connie Weisenhunt. Good evening, thanks for being here. I'm an advocate for the homeless and I work with them daily. I work with groups down in the Colorado Springs area. Dosher Park is currently blocked off and closed right now, so my folks come to the bypass underneath the park and ride. We do barbecues, hand out clothes. We have medical that goes out there. We work with the Springs Rescue Mission, and I'm sure that they would be excited to have a beautiful city as well to participate in. And I know that if you communicate with them and that kind of thing, that they're excited to participate in developing the city. They really do have high hopes for themselves and for others. And I would like to just say that I'll be praying for you that every time you give this presentation and the homeless comes up, that the answer that we're asking is, how can you help me to resolve that issue as well? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the audience that would like to ask any questions? Have any comments? Okay. And where can people, is this presentation on the CSU website?
It's not on CSU. If you go to the next slide, there is a website where the coscreekplan.org information is listed. There's also a feedback section on that website. So if you have constituents or anybody else who would like to leave comments or concerns, there's a section in that website as well.
Okay. Alrighty. And so if you do email them with comments or questions, if you would please CC Todd or any of us up here on it, so we can be aware of the questions that are coming from and concerns from our community, because we can't think of all of them. And so we're going to need the help of everybody on this. But I appreciate you coming down here in the phase and getting some really tough questions from us. But
They should be asked.
yeah, they have to be asked because we need, we have to protect our community down here too. So, all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anybody up here that needs to take a quick break, or are we good to keep going? Keep going? Okay. Alrighty, we're on to item 4.2, boards, commissions, and committee. There are none tonight. We're on to item 5, City Council agenda requests. City Council shall use this time to request any items for future consideration. I'm going to start to my right tonight, and hopefully that'll give Councilmember Rick time to unmute before time we get down to him. Okay, Councilmember Duncan?
One
City Council
item that I
agenda
have
requests.
is that we need to consider the CML, the representative for CML.
You mean the representative or the running for the board position?
The board position.
The board
Right.
position? Okay,
Uh-huh.
well, can we talk about that this week?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, do you have an agenda request?
I'd like to put it on the agenda. We need to vote on it. This is May, and you have to have it in by, so I don't know, it has to be turned in by June, and there's a date in June.
Okay, okay, all right. I didn't-
Council agenda?
Yeah, okay, I just want to understand what she was, yeah, okay. I thought you said a couple, is that it?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right. Councilmember Applegate?
Nothing tonight.
Councilmember Estes?
Nothing this evening.
Councilmember Hinton?
Nothing this evening.
Councilmember Corey?
Nothing tonight.
And Councilmember Rick?
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. All right, that takes us on to item 6, public to be heard. Citizens may address the council on items that are not on the agenda. Council may not be able to provide an immediate answer, but will direct staff to follow up. Out of respect for the council and others in attendance, please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. And I do have one card. Travis Baker, VFW Events.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Honorable Council. 3 things we got coming up that are pretty key to us is we have, this Friday obviously is our steak night. We have a steak night once a month, this Friday being that. And we are doing our installation of new officers on the 20th of this month at 9 o'clock in the morning. We will be open it, prior to that, so it's 9 to 11, and then we have events going on afterwards. And then again, of course, our Memorial Day remembrance ceremonies that we conduct with the city and at Legion 38 and at 6461. Ours will be our flag presentation at 11, followed by our presentation out back for the memorial and the free food. So we'd like to invite any and everybody to please come out and enjoy a good time with a bunch of grumpy old vets. Subject to your questions.
Well, I've never had a grumpy vet there, so.
Well, I would like to announce real quick, my predecessor, he will be taking over as the commander of VFW Post 6461. Aaron Himes, I will be moving to become the District 5 VFW commander for Department of Colorado.
Well, congratulations. Yeah.
My name's Aaron Himes. As you said, I'll be taking over the commander. I look forward to working with you, Madam Mayor, and the rest of the honorable council here to continue work with the veterans and as well with Legion 38, really bringing us together and combining our efforts as VSOs here within the city.
Great. Can you make sure, that was T. Evans at fountaincolorado.org. If we could make sure he gets your contact information, and we already have Travis's, but if we can get your information so we can keep in contact, that'd be great. Yes. All right, that's my new mantra for the night, huh? All right.
11 o'clock, Memorial Day?
11
for
o'clock
VFW.
Memorial Day for us. We will have our bugler at the caboose ceremony, and we have our warrior riders riding with Legion riders, and our flag ceremony will start at 11, and then after all of our ceremonies are complete, then we will do the free dinner, or the free lunch.
20th is the ride for the wall, though, too, right?
Correct.
So that's why you changed yours to the morning. Okay. So
Right.
yours is 9 to 11, and then, okay, perfect. That'll be a busy day then.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? No? I'll be there.
Okay, those are all the cards I have. Is there anyone in the audience that wanted to say anything? Is there anyone online?
No one on, excuse me, no one online, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And that takes us on to the consent agenda. All items listed under consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be approved with one motion. Will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately at the discretion of council. Madam Clerk, did you have something?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to request under the consent agenda, item 7E to be removed and be heard at a later time. There is an agreement that still needs some tweaking done to it. In addition, shall the consent agenda be approved tonight? I did want to note to the public that there is a date change for the council meetings in June.
In June. Right. The CML conference is during the fourth Tuesday that we normally would have. That's in here, right, Sylvia? I'm looking at it.
Yes, ma'am.
Item B. So if you look at item B, it is to,
Which one?
I'm looking for the
Item B.
Yeah, you've got it pulled up in front of you. Just changing the,
Reschedule the regular city.
yep, request to reschedule. Can we, I just want to state the dates for everybody, and I'm looking for it real quick.
You changing the dates again? To what?
Just for June, and I'm getting there. Sylvia, what are the dates we're changing them to?
June 6th and June 20th will be the new.
The 6th.
June 6th and 20th would be the new dates. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, so that takes it to consent agendas, items 7A, B, C, and D. I'm sorry? Councilmember Applegate?
I wanted to pull E.
Yes. Sylvia already requested to pull E.
I know. That's what I was, got my light on for.
Okay. Okay, so what would council like to do with consent agenda items A, B, C, and D? Councilmember Hinton?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda for items A, B, C, and D.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Councilmember Corey?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for consent agenda items A, B, C, and D. Please vote.
Just a minute, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Rick, how do you vote?
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
All right, thank you. That takes us on to item A, old business. Item A, second reading of ordinance 1787, an ordinance amending chapter 15.05, public safety impact fees of the Fountain Municipal Code. Chief Graham.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and the council. This is a continuation, second reading for this proposed ordinance. The one thing that I would draw your attention to in light of the information that's come forward tonight, if you look at the language, it says that in the future, once this is moved out of the ordinance and placed into the resolution, that whenever a change to the impact fees needs to be recommended, it would come from the public safety director. By recommendation from Mr. Trainer, the language on that should read fire chief and not public safety director. So that would be the one recommended change that we have for this. Other than that, we recommend approval amending this ordinance as presented.
Okay, so we have just a recommendation from staff to change that to be fire chief instead of public safety director. So if anybody would like, what would council like to do to make that amended? Councilmember Corey.
So I'd like to amend the proposal to say, instead of public safety director, fire chief.
Yes.
But with that correction, for second reading of ordinance 1787, we approve the amending chapter for the public safety impact fees for Fountain Municipal Code.
As amended.
As amended. Yep.
Okay. Yes. Councilmember Estes?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for ordinance 1787 as amended. Please vote.
Councilmember Rick, how do you vote?
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
Thank you. Okay, that takes us on to item 9, new business. Item A, consideration of items removed from the consent agenda. The item that was removed will not be being heard tonight. It's being postponed. So that takes us on to item 9B, Resolution 23-025, a resolution increasing the City of Fountain Public Safety impact fee. Chief Graham.
Madam Mayor and Council, this is essentially a sister action to the one we just took. This is resolution that is asking to update the impact fees. The impact fees first developed in 2020 and have not been updated since then. In 2021, the increase in construction fees did not increase to a level that the city felt like it was time to make an adjustment to the impact fees at that time. Looking at the fourth quarter of 2022, however, there was a significant increase of 31.49%, and that information was provided in the packet as well. There's a lot of numbers and graphs, but the synopsis of that is a CCI increase of 31.5% basically. And so what we're asking for is an increase in those impact fees, and we've provided the current impact fees as well as the proposed.
Okay.
I'll certainly stand for any questions.
Any questions for council? Any questions for anyone in the audience?
And Madam Mayor, I would also, would probably need to notate the same language, Public Safety Director, that's within this resolution as well to read, Fire Chief.
Okay, let's find what line that's on, please. Looks like it's the fourth whereas down. Whereas the Public Safety Director, so that would be whereas the Fire Chief? Yes. Is that the only place in there? Let's take a second, look it through real quick. I'm only saying in that one spot. Does everybody agree with that?
I think so.
Troy, Todd, everybody? Okay. All right, so we'll do this one as amended again also. Okay. What would council like to do? Councilmember Estes?
I move to approve Resolution 23-025 as amended.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Councilmember Hinton?
A second.
We have a motion and a second for Resolution 23-025 as amended. Any further questions? Seeing none, please vote.
Councilmember Rick, how do you vote?
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, that takes us on to item 10, correspondence, comments, and ex officio reports. Mr. Trainer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have anything to add tonight.
That was T. Evans at Fountain.
Well, Todd can't talk
Had
tonight
nothing
because
to
the
say
chief took
tonight.
his time.
So you know I pulled up your city cell phone, and that's going to be with that.
Oh.
With a little help from a friend.
You know, the good thing is, though, I've learned how to forward messages, and they'll be going, too. All right. Mr. Johnson.
Nothing for me.
Chief.
Just a quick word and a thank you. I know he left, but my hat's off to Chief Heber and the service that he's provided here to the city of Fountain, and also looking forward now to working with Chief Christiani.
I just got to say it again, Chief Christiani.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, the names didn't get any easier from Heber to Christiani. Yeah, I would reiterate what Chief Graham just said. I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for Chief Heber. So my thanks and gratitude to him, and I look forward to serving this community. Thank you, ma'am.
Dan?
Nothing this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, John?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a reminder, and it was mentioned tonight by the VFW, and appreciate the Legion being here too. May 29th at 9 a.m. will be our Memorial Day event at Mayor's park. And so we're trying to get the word out there. You'll see some banners going up at the parks and in front of City Hall here. We put some stuff up on our website about it and everything, but just wanted to highlight that again, Memorial Day remembrance on May 29th at 9 a.m.
Thank you. Christy? Nothing tonight, thank you. Is there anybody next to Christy? No. Okay, all right. All right. IT?
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor, thank you.
All right. Madam Clerk?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay, all righty. Councilmember Duncan?
Just have a couple of things. I've been noticing on Facebook that we have a lot of concerns about gardener snakes that we have out there. I'm just encouraging, I got my water, my other hat on. These gardener snakes are essential to our environment and, they're harmless. So, just please to make sure that you're not hurting a snake that won't do any harm to kind of make sure. We had a wonderful event at Metcalf Park. Thanks to all of those who had a hand in putting that together. The kids were excited. I felt kind of jealous, not wanting to have another baby, no. But I just, it's a great place to be. So if you haven't been out there, it's a great place to be. And I'm really appreciative to the staff who put that together. It is beautiful. I pass by there all the time, and it's being utilized a lot. We also have our free load at Waste Connections. And so I encourage, I know we're getting ready to do garage sales, and people are leaving things out on the street. So if you could take advantage of the one free load, they can come here to City Hall and get the voucher. And how long does that go through? Through May. So while we're having our garage sales and we're not getting rid of some things, we can take advantage of that. Okay, great. And it will be done again in the fall. Autism Night was great. I don't know if we got to talk about that, but I think we had more when it was inside. So I think we talked about moving that in, but it was a great event. A lot of kids out for that also, so I want to thank everybody who put that together. Nurses and Teachers Week, we want to honor those. Where would we be without those? Our nurses and our teachers. So I know at my son's school we having teacher appreciation tomorrow. So if you see a nurse or you see a teacher, tell them thank you for all they do. And I'm sure Scott and Sharon and we're happy not to be on at 7 a.m. on calls with the legislative sessions. We worked really hard to making sure we were monitoring things that were happening that was going to affect the people here in Fountain. Right now, they're in an interim schedule. You're welcome to go in and look at that. And what that is that they have a number of committees, and they meet during these interim months, and they have statutory committees, and they're doing committees that are created by the legislature to study issues and recommend legislative of timely House and Senate members. And this is audio only. So if you want to continue to listen in on what's going on, it's at ledge.colorado.gov/interim. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Applegate?
Nothing.
Councilmember Estes?
Just some quick advice to our new chief. Make sure that former Chief Heberer, Mr. Heberer, is around for July 4th.
Councilmember Hinton?
Yeah, just a couple things. Hey, I know people have got their assessor letter in the mail this month. I've had a lot of questions how they determine the assessed fees in the city of Fountain. Please call that number, reach out to them. There's a calculation that they do, and they can give you how they assess the fees on your home. So there were some complaints that I got this week, and how people hey, how can my house be this amount when you know, and so just call the city assessor. It's not T. Evans. Call the city assessor for that, and he can get you an answer. But if they don't get you an answer, you could definitely call T. Evans or email T. Evans at that. Yeah, that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
All right. Councilmember Corey.
Just want to say congratulations, Chief Christiani. I'm sure you'll do a great job, so coming up in the future. So I look forward to working with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Rick.
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. I would like to thank the Senate. Several of us went up to the Senate last week, and they did a wonderful tribute for Officer Becerra. It was very moving. When they vote on the tribute, each of the senators stands and turns and faces the family or the members that are there for it, and so that was very touching. And then they played the chimes at the end, the Senate chimes, in recognition. So it was a very, very moving ceremony. A lot of tears, but very healing also. So thank you to the, Senator Gardner for getting that, and Senator Exum for getting that. I went to a 4th judicial conference, found out it was on specialized courts. We have 10 specialized courts. I brought back some information from Troy. There's some we didn't even know about. Hopefully we can kind of hook up with some of them and take advantage of that. If you know someone who's a veteran, victim of domestic violence, having trouble with truancy, they have to ask to go into these courts. These courts are looking for people that want to make life changes. So the goal is not to put people in prison or jail. The goal is to help them make life changes. So the program pays for itself, and but they have to request to go in the program and get out of the system and be willing to change. And they had some really, really life-changing stories at that event, so it's pretty amazing. We had a ribbon cutting over for the roundabout over here on the west side of the freeway. If you haven't seen it, it's really, it is like the best roundabout in the state. I mean, come on. It's great. And thank you, Councilmember Hinton, for being able to come to that. That was kind of fun to do. And congratulations to all the graduating seniors that are coming up. It's already started, and everybody's worked hard to get where they're at. And so just be careful when you're celebrating that graduation. You don't want to end up in with Chief Christiani. So have a good, safe celebration, right? And I would like to say another thing that's coming up this summer that I think is very important is a couple of years ago, by state statute, by state law, they have to, when the census comes down, they have to redo the political boundary lines for the various offices. A couple of years ago, they redid the boundary lines for the House and the Senate districts in the state. And this summer, they are redoing the county commissioner districts. We need to really be paying attention to what's going on there. If we hadn't have been paying attention when they were redoing our House district the last time, they were going to cut Fort Carson out of our House district and put us with Peterson, and we had to really fight to say that's not our community of interest. Our school district is called Fountain Fort Carson School District, so we really need to keep them in there. And then when they were redistricting the congressional district, they were going to cut Fountain off and make us be part of the Pueblo Congressional District. And Pueblo's a nice city, but it's 30 miles away, and again, it's the magic words are community of interest. So we need to make sure that our commissioner district lines stay that we're a community of interest. Need to make sure we stay a whole city. Monument currently has 2 commissioners. And so we need to make sure that Fountain stays together as a whole city and watch what's going on and where those lines are going. So July 6th, will be the meeting to do it, our district, District 4. The time and the date have not been announced yet, but I mean, the time and the place have not been announced, but that is the date. So save July 6th if you want to come down and look at the maps that they will be out for suggesting. And those are suggestion maps. If you're a great map maker and you're really into studying how all that works with the population and balancing all that out, you can get on the county commissioner website and find some maps and stuff. So with that, Sylvia?
Thank you. Madam Mayor, City Council, I'd like to request an executive session pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-4024B for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions.
Okay, we have a motion from the clerk to go into executive session. What would council like to do? Councilmember Duncan?
I move that we go into executive session.
Councilmember Estes?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to move into executive session. Please vote.
Councilmember Rick, how do you vote?
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
Thank you. All right,